Michelle, and we grew up in the suburbs of San Francisco. We were really good kids, and we were incredibly close. And like all twins, we like to think that we were different. Like she did ballet, and I did sports. But even in high school, we went to a Catholic school, so we had to wear the same, plaid skirt and polo shirts. And as much as we wished that we were different, we actually weren't. And then it came time to choose a college. And we realized that we wanted very different things. She wanted to go to a small Catholic school, and so she chose Santa Clara, which is about an hour away from home. And I wanted a big D1 sports school with a football team, and so I chose University of Oregon. Now at the time, this was before the internet, and so colleges used to assign you a roommate, and then that roommate would get your address, and you'd get a letter in the mail, and they'd introduce themselves. And so my sister and I both got letters from our would-be new roommates. And Michelle got one from her roommate, Sarah. And Sarah said that she was from Chicago, and she was going to be a dance minor, just like my sister. And I got a letter from a girl named Alexis. Now, I had the choice whether to be in the sports dorm or in the honors college dorm, and so I chose the honors college dorm. And so I imagined Alexis as this very bookish vegan who was going to teach me worldly things about tofu and had a butterfly tattoo. And her letter sort of confirmed that for me. She was really sweet, and she signed her name Alexis with a heart over the I, which I took to me to be a really good thing. But when I got the letter, it made me wonder, who am I going to be in college? And I think this happens for a lot of people. Maybe you did this too. You start to think, well, maybe my freshman year I could, maybe start using a nickname, or maybe I'll started wearing a new style. And for me, I realized it wasn't only a fresh start, but it was going to be my first time in my life that I didn't have the comparison of having a twin. And so I knew that I wanted to do something very big and very different. And I knew what I needed to do. I needed to get dookie braids. Now, you'd think that you don't know what dookie braids are, but you do. It was the 90s, and many of my heroes had them. Like Tracy Chapman, Milli Vanilli, Flojo the Sprinter, Janet Jackson from Poetic Justice. They all had dookie braids. Dookie braids are not like when you go to the Caribbean as a tourist on spring break and go to the beach and get your hair braided with beads. It's not that. Now, I should mention that in high school, I was white. When I told my parents and my sister my plan to get dookie braids, I can't say that they had the same exact vision that I did, but they were supportive, and they said I should do it. And so what I did is I went to the kitchen and I got out the big phone book. And the only thing I think to do was to look for salons in downtown Oakland. And so I found salons like Diva Styles and Butte African hair braids and Sahara, but it was spelled Sahara. And I would call them one by one, and I would just very innocently say, "Hi, I'm white. Would you braid my hair?" And many of them hung up on me. I think some of them thought I was prank calling them. Some of them just said no. And then I reached this one, Annie's Braids, and the receptionist said, "Well, actually, I don't know. No one's ever asked that before." And so she said, "Hang on a second." So she went away, and she came back, and she said, "Yeah, we think we can do that." So I said, "Great." And so I made an appointment for 10 a.m. that Saturday, and they had told me it was going to take about 6 hours, and it cost about $250, which was a lot of money at the time, and all of my summer babysitting money. And so I drove myself the 30 minutes to downtown Oakland, and I walked into Annie's Braids, and it was already buzzing in the morning. It was clearly many women's weekend ritual to be there, and they were all chatting and everything. And I walk in, and it was just silent, and all heads turned to me, even the ones in the hairdryer, just all looked over at the same time. And they said, "Oh, you must be Jennifer." And so I sit down, and the first thing they do is they bring me this big piece of cardboard, and it has all of this synthetic hair on it. And I hadn't really thought everything all the way through, because all the colors they had were just different shades of black. And so I chose the lightest shade of black, and she started braiding my hair. And so what they do is they take a strand of hair, I mean really no more than this much at a time, and they tie the synthetic hair, and then they braid it all the way down, and then they take a lighter and they burn the end of the hair. And it's kind of plasticky, and so it melts and it stays. And so they proceeded to do that for my entire head of hair. Now, throughout the day, I should mention there was also a kitchen in the back of the salon where they were simmering rice and beans. And I was there for hours and hours, and so they came out and brought me a couple servings of rice and beans and kept me fed while they were doing this. And when it was all done, you know, she turned me towards the mirror, and I looked at myself, and I looked like Cleopatra on a bad hair day. I looked like I was wearing someone else's head, and I loved it. I thought it was like the most awesome thing I had ever seen. And I went racing home, and my parents and sister were a little like wide-eyed, but they were like, yeah, that works on you, that's good. And my grandpa told me I looked like Bo Derek, and I looked nothing like Bo Derek. And then it was time to go to school. And so first we drove my sister to school, and you know, we took her to Santa Clara, and we walked her into the dorm, and her roommate Sarah was there. And Sarah was petite, and she was blonde, and she was very sweet. And you know, we helped my sister unpack that day, and it was time to leave. And it was the hardest goodbye I had ever had to say, and still have had to say. We had been together for 18 years and 9 months, and it was the first time we were going to be apart. And when my parents and I drove up to Oregon, it was a long 10-hour drive. We were very quiet. My parents were actually losing both of us at once at the same time because there was just the two of us. And I just remember sort of like leaning against the car window, looking out, and sometimes seeing the reflection of my braids and loving them all over again. And when we got out to Oregon, the closer we got, I was getting more and more excited. And we got out and we walked across the quad towards the honors dorm, and it was really green, and the sun was shining. And we got up to the dorm, and we can see that the room was cracked open where my dorm was, and so we knew Alexis was in there. And so we went in and we opened the door, and there's Alexis. And she's black, and our parents are black, and I'm white. My parents are white, and we have the same exact braids. And we all stood there just looking at each other for what felt like eternity. And all I could think was, it was like the first time I realized that what I had done might be offensive. And I was thinking, oh my God, she's gonna think I'm making fun of her. My parents must be so embarrassed. I feel terrible. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna get these off my head? What am I gonna do? And all of a sudden, Alexis just broke into this huge smile, and she went, yes! She came running over and gave me a big hug, and I swear to God, we were the only 2 people on campus out of 17,000 that had that hair. And the really cool thing about it was that Alexis had all these things that I didn't know about. She had like shampoos and combs and shower caps, and so we spent much of the first semester, doing her hair together. And she would teach me all these ways to keep it looking good. And so, that's really how I took my first big step into being an independent person, away from my identical twin and ending up with another one.